Hi everybody, it is Janelle Cooper, and today we are going to make this super cute fingerless glove out of Tunisian crochets. I'm so excited about this because we're going to use the knit stitch, and as you can see it looks just like you knitted it, but we're going to crochet it. So I'm very excited about it. This is so easy and so simple. You can make it a little bit less simple if you want. You can make it a little bit more exciting, and you can actually do a special stitch on this side, leave this like regular knitted and do a special stitch on this side, and I'll show you how to do that stuff. This pattern is somebody else's pattern, it's not mine, and I'm going to link it in the description so that you can get to it and follow along if you want to. The only thing I did differently was this. My Tunisian crochet is not perfect, and my edges on my right side are always a little bit looser than my left side. So you can, if yours is perfect, then you can actually just kind of slip stitch these together and they'll match up perfectly. But I kind of like this. In fact, I think about maybe the next set I do, I might actually do this in a different color, this, and this. Like they're all gonna be in a different color with the main, so we'll see. But for right now, I'm gonna teach you how to do the basic fingerless glove. We're gonna do the left-hand side. The great thing about this too is that this is fully reversible. So it's exactly symmetrical, so it doesn't matter which hand you wear it on. So it's gonna be exactly the same. So that way you don't have to get confused, but you're just basically doing the same thing twice. If you decide that you wanna do something kind of special on one side, you're basically gonna do it on this side the first time you do it, and then on the other side the second time you do it. And it's gonna be pretty easy to figure that out. So usually in Tunisian crochet, we try to do things to combat this curl that naturally happens in Tunisian, but this time we're going to embrace it because we wanna get this look right here of this like curled cuff on the bottom. So if yours is gonna curl a lot, that's gonna actually be a happy thing. So I'm gonna tell you kind of what we need. This is the yarn that I use. This is yarn B. I got it from Hobby Lobby on sale because it's usually like $9, so I got it like half price, I think. But it's gonna take about 100 yards according to the pattern that I followed. It's gonna take about 100 yards per glove. This comes with 400. So you should be able to do maybe even 4 gloves with one skein of it. So you're gonna want to pull off a little bit just to do the thumb separately, and I'll show you how to do that, but like at the beginning, maybe make a separate little ball from your yarn so that you can do the thumbs with it. I actually already did one thumb with this, and it did not take hardly any yarn at all. You're going to need stitch markers. I just use safety pins because I'm cheap that way, and then you're going to use a needle to weave in your ends. Now when it comes to the actual Tunisian crochet hook, so I bought a whole new set and I love it. It's called Love to Crochet. It's the Denise interchangeable crochet hooks. Super cheap. I think it was like 20 bucks, and it comes with all these different extenders, and you can actually connect them together and make it even longer. This is great when you're working on something that's maybe a little bit bigger. This is actually, when you fold it out, it's about this wide. We're gonna do this flat, and then we're gonna crochet it together on the side. So it's actually gonna be about this wide when you're working on it. Many of you are gonna ask, do I have to buy a whole new set to do this? No, you don't. You actually can use, if you're using one of the aluminum style hooks that's nice and straight, you can use this to Tunisian crochet. I would just put like some kind of rubber band or some kind of stopper on the end here to keep it from going off the edge, because you are going to be working with a piece. It will have to kind of, it'll get kind of bunched up on your hook, which is fine. You just don't want it to go off the edge because that can cause problems. So on this one, it has a little stopper. So I'm so excited about these. I'm actually gonna give you the link to the exact ones that I got on Amazon. It's in the description if you want it. Just click on it and go get it. They're not expensive. And you can get them in 2 different colors. I got them in brights, but you can get them in pastels if you want to. It's a great, I don't usually do plastic hooks. I know any of you who watched my basket video, I tend to break them and they're not super great. They always have like little catches on them, but I'm noticing on these that these are nice and smooth and they work really well. I didn't have them catch on the yarn at all. So I'm pretty excited about them. So go ahead and gather your materials and let's get started. Okay, so one thing I can mention about this pattern is that it is actually on something called Ribbler. And I have never used Ribbler before. I had signed up for an account just so I could get this pattern. so far, I don't think it's sending me a lot of spam or anything. So, and the account's free. So it might be kind of a cool place to go to get free stuff. They also have like paid patterns and stuff on here too. So, so I will send you the link, but just know that, or I'll put the link in the description, but just know that you may have to set up a Ribbler account to be able to see it. Or you can just follow along with me on the YouTube channel. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're going to chain 35. So if you've never done Tunisian crochet before and you're worried, don't worry, I'm gonna walk you through, this is like the simplest of simple. So I'm gonna walk you through every part of it. I'll go kind of slow so you can get it. And then what we're gonna do is I'm gonna get you started on the main parts, and then we'll skip to the parts where there's actual changes happening. So first thing we're gonna do is you're gonna chain 35. Those of you who watch me know that I don't enjoy chaining. I prefer to do foundation chains and stuff, but I will make an exception for Tunisian because I'm kind of new to Tunisian. So I like to follow the rules while I'm new, just to until I get to know it well enough to start making changes to it. So 3, 4. Okay. So you got 35. So you may be wondering, what if I want to make them bigger? What if I want to make them smaller? Okay, so the pattern that I found says one size fits all. Now clearly it doesn't fit all because it's probably not going to fit like children. So you may want to do it smaller for children. But you're going to see in this pattern, if you watch the video, you'll see that it's so simple that it's very easy to make smaller for kids if you want to. I did just have my son try it on, and my son is 6 feet tall and he has really big hands, and they fit him fine. So it may fit all adults just fine. So, so keep that in mind when you're doing it. Okay, so you're gonna skip the first one and you're gonna go to the second one. And for Tunisian, when we go into the chain, you're gonna go into that back bump right there. So there's the regular chain that we usually go into. We're not gonna do that. We want actually to have both of these loops. This horseshoe is gonna be on the bottom. So we're gonna go into that back bump and you're gonna pull up a loop, but you're not going to finish it like you would like for a single crochet. You're just going to leave it on the hook and continue doing that all the way across. Just pull up a loop, leave it on there. Tunisian crochet is like it's like a hybrid between crochet and knitting, which is kind of fun because there is a lot of, I enjoy knitting. The only thing I don't enjoy about knitting is that it seems like it takes a lot longer than crocheting. But I love the knit stitch. I think it's, you know, just so pretty and perfect looking. I struggle with chains because it's so tiny. So that's what you're gonna do. Do that all the way across until you get to the last one, and then I'll show you what to do on the last one. Okay, so I have completed putting all of these stitches on here. See how it goes off the end like that because it's kind of longer than the hook? That's why you can use this hook to do it, but you're just gonna wanna put a little something here, like some kind of stopper, and it can be just like a tiny little, one of those little pigtail rubber bands or something that you wrap around it or something, but just to keep it from running off the end. Otherwise, you're gonna get super frustrated with that. So here's the final stitch. Here's what you do on the always on the final stitch in Tunisian crochet. You're always going to do that last one, even if you're doing something fancy and you're like going behind or doing some of the crazy other stitches in Tunisian. You're always going to do the last stitch like a normal, what would you call that? A normal slip stitch basically on the end there. So even though we went in the back bumps on all of those, that last stitch we do it like a normal. And what it does is it matches over the other side. So you're going to have basically what looks like a chain going up on both sides so that they match. It makes them for nice and symmetrical looking. So now that we've done that, this is called your return pass. So in Tunisian crochet, you always do a setup pass and then a return pass, and that's your complete row. So the return pass is this. You just wrap it and pull through one. That's basically kind of, to me, that's like represents chaining up one, right? Then you're going to wrap it and go through two. And you're gonna wrap and go through two all the way across. And that is working it off, back off the hook. So you load it on and then you work it off. I have to warn you, if this is your first Tunisian crochet project, it is so addicting. which is why I bought the new hooks, because the hooks that I had before were like kind of a hodgepodge of hooks that I've kind of just picked up along the way. And I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna get serious about this, I have like 3 or 4 projects in my head that I wanna do. And if I'm gonna get serious, I want hooks that I'm actually gonna enjoy working with. The other thing too about these hooks that I haven't tried it yet, but I can see that it's gonna work is, if you guys saw my smock stitch Tunisian beanie that I did earlier, that one was done in the round. This one's being done flat, so it's super easy. But the one in the round, you usually need a double-headed crochet hook for that. And these ones, you can actually do that because you can actually connect the 2 ends to each other. It has a short little one here, and you can take 2 hooks and connect them to each other. So you do your return pass going in the same direction. I don't want to confuse anybody for those of you who are new, but so I like the versatility of the set. Okay, so this is just basically the setup stitch to get you started. The next row we're going to do is the Tunisian Knit Stitch. Okay, we're all the way to the end. Okay, here's my downfall. See how loose that is? I tend to always do my right sides really loose, so you want to kind of tighten up that left side there. Okay, so for Tunisian Knit Stitch, you're not going to do anything with this loop that you're in. You're going to go over to this next one. So skip this bar right here, that bar. Usually for Tunisian, for a simple stitch, you just go under this and you pull up a loop and you leave it on there, right? That's simple stitch. But for knit stitch, we're actually going to go through the center of that stitch to the back and pull up a bar. And that's what's going to give it that cool knit look going up that way. So I'm going to show you how to do it a few times here. So you see the little horseshoe there? There's actually a yarn going in the front and a yarn going in the back. You're going to go right through the middle to the back. Pull up a loop, leave it on there. This is so like soothing when you're just like sitting and doing other things. Knit stitch I think is probably the easiest one. Simple stitch is pretty easy, but for some reason knit stitch just feels right to me. And just do that all the way across until you get to the last one. Okay, so these are the last 2 stitches. This one you're going to go right through there. And then on the last one, you're going to go through as if it were a regular chain. So you're going to go through the middle of this, but instead of going straight back, I mean, you're still going straight back, but you're going to make sure you have 2 loops in the front, 1 in the back, like that. And then pull through and up like that. So it ends up not being, I mean, I think pretty much what it is a knit stitch that you usually do. So like if you were doing simple stitches here, you always like basically end up doing a knit stitch up the sides on both of them. So that's how it ends up looking anyway. But so we're going to knit stitch all of this. Okay, so you've done 1 row. Okay, so basically this is the end of your first knit row. Now we have to do our return pass to complete it. So it's not completed until you've done the return pass. This is just the setup row. It doesn't count, okay? So this is the first knit row. So go ahead to do your return pass. You're just going to yarn over and do 1. That's just basically that side chain I was talking about. And then yarn over and go through 2. And go through 2 all the way across. Yarn over, 2. So the one thing about the Tunisian knit stitch that's a little bit different than the regular knit stitch is that it's a little bit thicker because it has this bar across the back that you don't have in regular knit, but it's pretty darn close. And I actually think I want my little fingerless gloves to be slightly thicker. With Tunisian crochet, I feel like you use both hands, all your fingers, You hold it with this one, you hold this side with this one. It's a little different than regular crochet, so it takes a little getting used to. Okay, last row. Again, I'm notorious for being loose right there, so I'm gonna tighten it up a little bit, and then we're gonna not do anything with this one. That's the one you're already in. You're gonna jump right over to this guy, go all the way to the back, and then pull up a loop, and do that all the way across again. And just keep doing that. You're gonna do it for 13 more rows. So you will have a total of 14 rows, not including this setup row. So don't, when you're counting, don't count this one. Count the one after the setup row. So meet me when you get to 14 total. That'll be the end of the cuff, which is this part right here. And then we'll start doing an increase in the center. You're gonna love this increase in the center because it's so satisfying how pretty that is. But we're gonna start doing an increase in the center to start building out the thumb. And then, yeah, we'll go from there. It's so easy, you guys. You're gonna love how simple this is. Okay, we're back. I have completed. What you should have here is your setup row plus 14 knit stitches. Aren't those perfect? I just love how perfect they look. So this is what Tunisian crochet does. It curls. So we find lots of different ways to combat that usually, but right now we're going to embrace it because we want the bottom edge of our glove to curl and the top edge to curl, as well as this too. So we're just gonna embrace it and let it happen. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna start increasing, and the increase is gonna be the thumb, and it's gonna be right smack in the middle. So pretend like this goes this way, and we're going to begin our increase right here in the middle. So that's why I was saying that if you wanted to make it fancier, you could do maybe a cable stitch or a different stitch down the middle of this to make it fancy. If you do that, then when you decide to do it on the second one, you want to do it on the right side of the middle on the first one, and then the left side of the middle on the other one. I hope that makes sense. So, so that your gloves are facing each other, right? But since we're not doing it on these ones, it doesn't matter. We're just going to put our little increase right in the middle. And to do that, we're going to knit stitch just like we were doing before. So you're gonna skip this bar right here and go right into this. And you're gonna do 16 across. So what that should give you on here is a total of 17 stitches. So the starting one plus 16. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, at that point, this next stitch is the center stitch right here. So what you're gonna do before that center stitch is you're going to increase. And to increase, it's actually over here. So that's in the middle. This is the next stitch right here that you would normally knit stitch into. Before that stitch, we're going to do a full stitch. So Tunisian full stitch is just like Tunisian knit stitch. The only difference is where you place your hook. So on a knit stitch, you're gonna go through this hole right here, but on a full stitch, you're gonna go through the space before that knit right there. So full stitch, you're gonna go right straight through, pull it up, that's going to increase. Okay, so you just increased. Now you're gonna do one knit stitch, which is the center, and then again, you're gonna increase on the other side of it. And then you just continue across. And what we're gonna do each time we go across is you're gonna do 16, and then you're going to do an increase, and then you'll do the center stitches, which are now 3 instead of 1, and then increase, and then 16, and then 16, increase, then center will be 5, increase, and then, so you know what I mean? So you're gonna go up in odd numbers as you go out. It's gonna look kind of like a little V going up like this. So we're gonna finish this row with just regular knit stitches across. Okay, knit stitch, and then remember on that last stitch, you're gonna make sure there's 2 yarns on that side and 1 on this side. And go right straight through there. Bring it up so that you have this like perfect chain on the side there. Okay, so now we're ready to do our return pass, which is just like before. It's always, actually return passes are pretty much always the same. You just go through 1 and then you go through 2 all the way across. So what this did is that you increased your piece from 35 stitches to 37 stitches. And every other row now, that's what we're gonna do. So you're going to do a row of increase and then a row of normal, and then a row of increase and then a row of normal. And each time you increase, it's gonna go up by 2. I would suggest, here, when we get to the end of this here. Okay, so we get to the end of this row. This was our increase row. We just went up from 35 to 37, right, in our stitches. So the next row, we're not gonna increase. We're actually going to just do 1 regular row, and then we'll increase every other row. So one thing that I would suggest doing is maybe marking it, only because life happens, and then you have to walk away sometimes, go to the bathroom, or somebody's asking you a question, or you have to answer the phone or whatever, and then you go, was this an increase row or was this a regular row? And it's kind of hard to tell. This was the increase row. Now we're just gonna do 1 row of regular, just knit stitches all the way across, no increases, and then we'll increase again on the next row. I can't tell you how many times I set it down and came back and went, what row was I on? Okay, I will meet you at the end. I'm gonna do this regular row and the return pass, and then I'll meet you at the end of that. Okay, so that row is completed. So now we're going to do our next increase row. So this was an increase row, this was a regular row. We're gonna do the next increase row. We're gonna go up from 37 to 39 stitches. It's always gonna go up by 2. And we're gonna go ahead and just like we did before, we're gonna knit stitch 16 stitches across, which will put 17 stitches on the hook, because including the first one. Okay, so we did 16, that puts 17 on here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Nope, 1 more. Okay, so now we're gonna do our next increase. And you can kind of see where we did the increase before. You can see how it got bigger right there. That's going to continue to be a little bit more profound as we go. So you're going to, just like before, we're going to do a full stitch underneath the bar right there, all the way back to the back. So you're going to do a full stitch. And then this time we're going to do 3 knit stitches, not just 1, because now you increased by 2 last time. 2, 3. And then you're going to do another full stitch right after the 3rd one. And then you're going to knit stitch the rest of the way across, which should be 16 stitches. Well, actually, it should be 17 stitches, I believe, including the last one. 15, 16, and then the final one is the 17th one. So you should have 17 on either side of your little increase V. Your V of increases, I guess, is the better way to go. So you'll start to see it sort of form right there in the middle. And then the further you go, it's gonna look a lot more profound as it goes out. So now we're at 39 stitches across. I'm gonna go ahead and do the return pass and then do the single across. So what I want you to do is keep doing that. It's gonna be 16 stitches, increase the number of stitches in the middle that you are at. So it'll go up by, it'll be an odd number. It'll be 1, 3, 5, 7, all the way up, 9, 11, right? Keep doing that until you get to 53 stitches total across after your return pass. So on the return pass of the 53 stitches, we're gonna mark it. Okay, so I made this little drawing just so that I didn't lose you on that last thing, because some of us are visual learners. I know I'm a visual learner. So the piece that you're making is going to get bigger as we go, because we're increasing right here in the center. The way these increases are going to work is you're going to do one row. That first row is you're going to do, there's your end stitch, right? 16 knit stitches, and then one increase stitch, which is the Tunisian full stitch, one regular knit stitch, and then one increase stitch, and then 16, and then your end stitch, right? The next row, which is what we just did, the next row is going to be just plain knit stitch all the way across. The next row you're going to increase, but you're going to have 3 in the middle. The next row will be plain all the way across, and then 5 in the middle of the next row, and you're just going to go every other row is where you're going to increase, and you're going to increase by that number in the middle is going to be odd number all the way up. Hopefully that makes sense. So just remember end stitches, 16 regular knit stitches, 2 full stitch on either side, and then knit stitches in the middle. And then hopefully that makes sense for you. If not, please, please, please leave me a comment and I will try to explain it a little bit better. But it's actually very simple once you get the hang of it. Just don't forget to do that one row in between of just all knit stitch. Don't do the increase, and that's every other row. Okay, so I will meet you when we get to 53 stitches and then your return pass, and then the next pass is when we're going to mark it. Okay, so here we go. I have completed, I'm not sure how many rows it is, but it got to the point where I'm at the 51 stitches. So look at how perfect. I just love that increase right there in the middle. It's like so perfect. But remember how I was saying that when I do Tunisian crochet, my left side is nice and perfect. My right side is always a little bit loose. So that's why I chose to do my edge right there like this instead of the way they did it in the pattern, just because it kind of covers that up a little bit. So the next thing that we're gonna do, so we're on 51, we need to get to 53. So I have done, this is the increase row, this was the second row where everything was just knit stitch all the way across. So we're gonna do that last increase, and I kind of wanted to do it on camera for you just so I can show you. By the time you get to like here, it gets super easy because you can really see where that increase is, right? You don't even have to count anymore. So it's always good to count your 16 stitches, but you don't really have to. So I'm just going to show you really quickly. Okay, so when you get to your 16th stitch, there's actually going to be 17 on here because it was the one that you started with plus 16. So after your 16th stitch is when you put in the increase, which is right here, going right straight under that bar. And then you're going to go right into the next knit stitch. And I believe we're at 19 in the middle here. I can literally see myself making a ton of these because I was just cruising through this while I was like watching TV with my husband the other night. It's just nice and soothing because it's just very simple. But you know, having this increase in the middle keeps it from being boring, I think. So you're actually doing your increase over here plus 17, and then you're going to increase over here, which will make it 19 stitches in the middle. So there's your increase that was just going right underneath that bar, and then you go right into your knit stitches, and there should be 16 knit stitches left plus the end stitch. Okay, so that's 16, and then the end stitch, you want to kind of turn it a little bit, and you want to get those 2 pieces of yarn on the end, just like that. Now that we've completed our 53, this is our increase row, we're going to go ahead and do our return pass to finish off this row, and then when we do the knit only row, then we're going to go to the 20th stitch and mark it. So I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to go ahead and do the return on this really quick. It's always helpful too when I count as I go back. That's how I make sure that I have the right amount of stitches. So that was 53. Okay, so we're going to go right into our knit only row, but we're going to do 20 stitches. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that is the 20th stitch right there. And then we're going to take our little marker, since we don't really need to know which one we're increasing on anymore since we're done increasing. And we're going to go ahead and mark the 20th stitch. Okay, just kind of let that dangle to the back is where I usually put it. And then I'll put it to the front. It seems to want to go to the front. And then just continue across, doing your knits all the way across. Okay, so now just do your return pass. And when you get to the end, you're actually gonna take the hook out and you're going to mark that last one, because we're gonna skip over here and start working right here for just a little bit, and then we'll go back. So you don't wanna fasten it off. You just wanna mark it with a little stitch marker so it doesn't come undone. Okay, so we have completed this section right here. These are the 53, you got 53 stitches, you did your return pass. I just wanna make sure, so I marked it with a stitch marker and took the hook off. That way it won't come undone. Then one thing I did want to make sure is when you count across, when you marked your stitch, you want to make sure that it's not 20 stitches from here, like where you like pulled up one and then you just knitted across 20 stitches. It's actually 19, which is 20 total, including that first one. Otherwise, it'll be off center. So learn from my mistakes. And then that way, because mine was off by just one on the first one. And I was like, why did that happen? And it's just the way that the pattern's written. It just doesn't specify very well, but it's actually the 20th stitch. When we come through and we fold it and the thumb is up here, you're actually going to skip, and it tells you to skip at the 19th stitch. So that's how you know that that's what they're trying to say. So basically, when you marked this, it should have been 19 stitches in, which was 20 total, including the end stitch. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our hook, and right where this stitch is, we're going to do a regular knit stitch. Just kind of keep your eye on that so you know which one it is. It's right there. We're gonna do a regular knit stitch. We're just gonna pull up a new yarn, and this is the little roll that we, I just totally messed that up. So you're just gonna pull up some yarn from this little ball, which is referred to as a bobbin. There are actual bobbins that you can get, but this is, you know, to me, it's just a little piece. So we're just gonna call that our bobbin. Just go ahead and pull in, maybe leave a little bit of a tail because you are gonna be sewing in a little bit on this, and because it's not attached there. Now, if you wanna take a moment to attach it so it doesn't slide around, I'm okay with that, do that. Like take that and attach that right there. Then, so that way it's nice and tight and it doesn't come undone very easily. So then what you're gonna do is go into the next stitch, and you're just gonna knit stitch across 14 more stitches. So this counts as the first one, so that's gonna be 15 total. Okay, so that should be 15 total on there. And it should also be centered. So where you come in on the sides, there should be your end stitch and then 2 more, end stitch, 2 more. Hopefully that makes sense to you. This in the middle of the increases. So from there, you're just gonna pretend like this is your new wall you're working on, and you're just gonna go back and forth and make 5 total rows. So this is the first row. Okay, so I finished the first row. You're just gonna do 4 more. So meet me at the end of the 5th row. Okay, so there is the end of our thumb right there. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna cast off. So to do that, you're just gonna do just like you were doing before, do a knit stitch, but instead of leaving it on the hook, you're gonna pull it through that other loop right there. So do it again, pull it through. All the way across, that should finish the row. Okay, knot it just like you would for regular crochet. And give yourself a tail, because we're going to be sewing. It doesn't take a long tail, but I would don't shortchange yourself, because we're going to use that to sew the middle part of your thumb together. So Here's what it looks like when it's flat. What's going to end up happening is we're going to fold it in half. When we do the next rows right here, this is going to automatically fold for you. And then this is going to look like this. So pretend like it's connected. It will be on the next row, just like that. And then we're going to continue doing this part right here, not in the round. We're going to do it flat. But so you're going to be sewing it in two places. You're going to sew it right here. You can either sew it or you can crochet it. I chose to sew on the thumb part, and then when we connect it over here, I chose to do a regular single crochet down the side there. So we have a few more rows to go. This is what I was talking about though. So like right now, this is symmetrical. So the thumb is right smack in the middle. So these are reversible. It doesn't matter if it's right or left side, it doesn't matter. But you could, if you wanted to, do these and make them a little fancier. You could do a special stitch on one side and knit stitch on the other side. Just remember that when you do that, when you do the second one, you want to do the knit stitch on the opposite side and the special stitch on the opposite side from the first one. And then that way you'll have the pretties on the tops on both sides. So although I think the knit stitch is just pretty all by itself. But okay, so next row. You're going to go ahead and pick this up where you left off. Leave these little guys on there for later. We'll deal with them later. Okay, so just like before, we're going to knit stitch across, but this time we're going to go to 19 stitches. So the first one that it started with plus 18 more. So 3, 4. You'll know you're there because you will run out of stitches because these ones are already taken. So then what you're going to do is you're going to jump over. Let me get this out of the way. You're going to jump over to the next stitch, which is right, not this one, because obviously that's part of the thumb right there. So you're going to jump right into this one right here. And it's basically going to pull this thumb out like that. So we're still going to be working flat, but the thumb's going to be sticking out now. And then pull that up. The first one's going to be weird because they're kind of spread apart, but they will start to tighten up together. You just want to make sure that you kind of hold that thread tight when you do that first one. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Now we're going to do the return pass. Okay, so that's what it looks like after the first row that's connected. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to do regular knit stitch all the way across, just like we did before. Pretend like that jump over isn't there. Just keep doing your thing. When you come to here, you're just doing that knit stitch and that knit stitch, and we're going to do that for 9 more rows. So 10 total, including this first one. I'll meet you at the top of that. Okay, we are almost done. So I just finished the last row. So there are 10 rows total from where this connects all the way up. See how that curls like that? I just love that. So we are now going to go ahead and cast off up here, just like we did with this one. It's very, very easy, but isn't that just so fun? So basically, it's kind of just a square with a thumb in the middle. 38 rows up here, 35 rows down here, I think, and so you actually did add a few rows, so it is a little bit wider up here than it is down at the bottom, but it basically just looks like a square with a thumb in the middle. But we are going to go ahead and cast off, and then we're going to be almost done. It's just about connecting it and sewing the ends in, stuff like that. Okay, so just to, like we did before, you're just going to do your regular knit stitch, but instead of pulling it up and leaving it on the hook, you're going to pull it all the way through that next loop right there, and that is your cast off. So just go all the way across, and that just gives it a nice finished edge. When you get to the edge, go ahead and, so when you get over here, you could just fold it in half and do your crochet along the side, right? Except for I found that I don't like the divot that it creates. So I went ahead and ended it, and then I just started with a new piece. It's totally up to you what you prefer to do on that part. I'm going to go ahead and end it, knot it, and then start with a new piece to put them together, just because I think it made for a cleaner edge. Okay, final stitch. Pull it through there, pull it through there, and then I'm going to go ahead and just knot it. You don't need to leave a long tail on this because we're going to crochet it together. But if you if you would rather, you can actually put a long tail on that and just sew these two sides together if you wanted to. Like I said before, I chose not to do that because my two sides are not perfect. You can see that this is nice and straight, and this has some loose parts on it. And so if I did a mattress stitch on the sides here to put them together, you would be able to see. It wouldn't be too bad, but you would be able to see that there's a little bit of a difference. So I kind of like the idea of having a showing seam right here, because you can actually, I'm just going to do a regular single crochet, but think of all the things you could do. You could put a little scallop on the side. You can do a totally different color and do like lace, or there's lots of different things you can do over there. So now I am going to grab these two ends at the very, very tippy top, right there, and you're gonna have to turn it a little bit to get to the other part of this side here. Hold on. So just pull this in. Go up one, go back into the same stitch. That's what's going to make it nice and square on the end there, so it doesn't look so, I don't know, funky. And then you're just going to do a single crochet, and you'll just single crochet all the way down the side. Just this stitch and this stitch. Yarn over and pull up, and then single crochet all the way down the edge there. Makes for a cute little seam. And then I will see you at the end, and I'll talk to you about how we're gonna sew these ends together and stuff. Okay, here we go. This is the last stitch on this side, last stitch on this side, and we're just gonna crochet those together. So this is going to leave kind of a little bit of a funky thing right here. Don't worry about it, because when we sew our ends in, we're going to connect those, but also we're going to want to kind of re-roll, because what happens when you do the seam here is that it kind of takes away that cute roll, so we're going to recreate it. So go ahead and knot off right there. And you are basically done. Now it's just about putting it, like sewing our ends in, and like this part right here needs to be sewn together. So look at how cute that is. So fun. So, and they are really stretchy, so you can actually like, they will fit on multiple size hands. Very cute. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how to sew these parts together, pretty simple, and then weaving in your ends. And then basically what I'm gonna do is I'm going to roll this down, and when I weave in my ends, I'm gonna attach it right there. And I'm gonna do that on this side too, because putting that seam right there takes away that roll, and we wanna keep that roll because it's cute. So let's go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you what it looks like at the end. I think what I'm gonna do, I've already got so many cute rolls of yarn ready to go for more of them. Like I'm really, these are so fun and so fast that I think everyone's gonna get a pair for like Christmas. But I might get a little fancy with these yellow ones and do like some white edging, or maybe even some pink edging on there. I don't know, it'll be fun. So if you want to see those, definitely join us on my Facebook group, which is called Janelle's Quarantine Crochet. And what I'll do is when I post the video, as I am making other modifications to it, I'll post pictures of the new ones. And you guys are encouraged to do that too. If you want to post, if you want to do something different with yours and then post pictures of your modifications, I think that would be really fun for everyone to see. Okay, so like I said, on this one, on the thumb part, you've actually got 2 threads to work with. It'll be nice for like, you don't need to use both of them, obviously. Like you can just sew your ends in on this one and then use this one to do all the work, which I think is what I'm gonna do. As far as sewing your ends in go, there's a couple of different ways to do it. This is like, nobody enjoys weaving their ends in, I don't think. I mean, I kind of do because it helps you close up any gaps, and make things look nice and pretty together. But most people, it's like their least favorite thing to do. In crochet, that's true, but God, that's got to be even more true in knitting because knitting is like, you just don't even know where to put it when you do it. You don't have like a pretty row to put things down. So I'm gonna just close that little gap up right there. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this and I'm going to basically go through, here we'll do it on this side because this is where it came out. I'm basically going to go through the exact same stitches as they came out of. So follow the stitch, right? So that you're basically doing, follow this row, go where that stitch went, and just going over the top of the stitch that you've already done. I think that is kind of the easiest way to do it. And then that way it doesn't come undone, it's also not too visible. So I just followed this stitch. So you can't really see it. It's just basically going over the top of the other stitches. And I would do that for a few stitches and then go ahead and cut that off. And if you want to do the back and forth thing like I do in regular crochet, you can kind of do it on the inside and kind of hide it in here. If you don't stop having to, I've had to reweave this so many times. So just like in regular crochet, just go ahead and jump over that stitch and go back the way you came. And that should keep it from working itself out. If you have a better solution for this, please, please, I'm sure if you're a knitter, you probably have all kinds of cool ways to knit or to weave stuff in. Although I can knit, I don't consider myself a knitter. So if you have another way to do that, I would love to hear about it. Put it in the comments. I'm sure everybody could benefit from that. But see, that looks like it's not going to work itself out. It's pretty stable. Just like that. So now basically you're going to do the same thing on this side. You're just going to do a little stitch. And you could just do a mattress stitch or an invisible stitch right there to put the thumb together. So join them up here at the top so that it's a nice clean finish. And then I would roll it, like you want to do that stitch so that it's connected to each other, but then I would roll it down so that it has that same roll on both sides. So see how you kind of want that to roll just like the other side, and then attach that as you're weaving your sides in. And then just continue on with your stitch right there. You're just grabbing that little bar in between those two parts of that stitch and then do it on the other side, and it kind of pulls them together. It makes this sort of invisible sort of seam right there. Make sure you don't have any holes. See the little hole right there? So I will just go over and grab it and pull it together so there's no hole. So nice and closed up, and then go ahead and weave in your ends. I'm gonna go into the inside this time to do it. Weaving in your ends on the other side is easy because you've got a single crochet to work with and you can just hide it in that row. And there's your thumb. You're gonna do the same thing over here on the edge, only on the edge it's gonna be way easier because you have single crochets that you can hide your ends in, which makes it a lot easier to me anyway. So go ahead and weave all your ends in and then we'll be done. And then I'll show you what the next project's gonna be because it's kind of exciting. There you go. Didn't those just turn out so cute? They're so simple and so easy. And I think that any beginner can do this. It's just such a simple pattern. And there's so many different ways you can make it fun too. Like you can actually do little graphs right here. You can make a little flower or whatever you want to put on there. I might do some with some edging, or I might change this color of the edge up here and then do this with like a matching edging color. We'll see what I come up with. I have all of this because I'm kind of a sock yarn hoarder because I've always wanted to do socks, but I don't enjoy the time it takes to do them. So I may be able to modify this into a sock pattern with the same exact stitch, and that was pretty easy, so I think I can handle that, and maybe I can show you guys that. But first, guess what I bought? So I went and got some mandala yarn, and I'm so excited because what's gonna happen with these, I don't know if you guys are on my crochet group, you would see the conversation that we had on there. There was a story that came out on Glamour that crochet tops are supposedly the in thing again. And I'm like, wow, I haven't been in style in ever. Like I enjoy being a little out of style. But one of the tops on there is by Free People, and it is, it's $750, and it's just a granny square cardigan, like a short one. So, and I can tell by looking at it that it looks like it was made with mandala sparkle yarn. It didn't have the colors I wanted in sparkle, so I just got regular, but I think I'm gonna try and recreate that. This is $30 worth of yarn. If I can recreate that crochet top with $30 in yarn instead of $750, I'm gonna be pretty excited. So that might be my next video. So be sure to subscribe if that's something that interests you, because there's a couple other tops that I saw on there too that they're charging a fortune for, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure we could make those. So check that out. That might be coming up soon. So in the meantime, until I finish making that video, go ahead and play with your sock yarn. Check this little guy out. I just love the colors in this. This says it has 200 yards, 235 yards, I think it said in it. I'm not looking in the right spot. 235 yards, which with this tiny thing means that I should be able to make both gloves with one. So I might do that and play with it a little bit. So I love the colors. It just screams Halloween to me. Anyway, so have fun making your gloves, and be sure to leave a comment and tell me what you think about it, and join us on my crochet group on Facebook. It's Janelle's Quarantine Crochet. We have a fantastic group there, and we have a lot of fun together. So see you next time. Thanks for joining me.